All right. Good Monday morning to you guys. Hey, everyone. Big episode today. We had a long weekend. So today, well, a lot of stuff happened over the weekend. Actually, let me back up. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know I did. It was kind of quiet. It was just me and my wife just kind of hanging out around the house. All the kids were doing other things. So yeah, it was just us. But anyway, I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. We had a big weekend and we got a big episode today. We're talking about Trump's bold pick for FBI director, the fallout from the Michigan Ohio State game, which, I'm from Ohio. For those of you that watch the show regularly, you know that I'm from Ohio. That was kind of big news this weekend. We got two senators we got to keep an eye on. Trump's DEA pick and what it really means to be liberal. Because I think a lot of folks on the left are absolutely confused as to what it means to be liberal. But before we dive into all that, make sure, guys, to like and subscribe to the show. So we're trying a new format today. So programming note, I want to make sure I throw this out right away. We're testing out for the first time doing the show live over on Rumble using or utilizing Rumble Studio to see how it goes, to see how we like it. So we are streaming out to YouTube, Facebook, X, but we're testing the Rumble Studios for the first time today. Hopefully it goes well. And if there's not a lot of hiccups, chances are we'll probably live stream from Rumble so you can catch it live on Rumble every single day. I'm trying to determine if it's going to be a 7 a.m. show start. So that way we can catch you guys on your way to work, or if it's going to be an 8 a.m. show start. Haven't decided yet, but if this goes well today, and part of it's recording it, right? The second part of this in testing is the post-production. How easy is it for us to slice and dice up the show and put it out on social media, etc. So just wanted to let you guys know that's what we're trying. That's what I'm testing out today. So let me know in the comments if it sounds good, if the audio sounds good, etc. If you, wherever you're hearing this at, whether it's on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, or X, I will see all those comments. So let me know. My goal is to just try to make this show better and better and better, and keep it interesting for you guys to come back. Getting that perspective. I apologize. I got that weekend phlegm going on in my throat. But I just want it to be something that you guys want to come back day after day and day and consume. So we're testing this out. We'll see how it goes. You guys let me know in the comments how it sounds, especially over here on Rumble, since we're testing it on this platform. Also, a quick shout out to Rob Carson, the Rob Carson Show over on Newsmax, for having me on this past Friday. Thanks, Rob, and producer Ken Dector and Mary Walter, who was guest hosting for Rob Carson this week. I'm pretty sure due to the holidays, Thanksgiving holidays. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate you guys having me on. Back to, if you guys have not subscribed to the show yet, please do me a favor. Subscribe to the show. If you're here on Rumble, make sure to follow. If whatever platform you're seeing this on, make sure to subscribe. Also, do me a favor, go over and follow me on TikTok at Justin Staten over on TikTok. So follow me over there, guys. It would mean the world to me. And I'm not exactly sure. See, we're already having technical difficulties, and I'm not sure why. I was a little worried. Here we go. Let's try this. Hey, there it's going. I was a little worried about doing this, testing this live, but hey, we're going to do it. We're going to do the Bill O'Reilly. We're doing it live. I've done this a couple times. I just want to make the show better for you guys. And if you guys are listening to this over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I apologize, because you're like, dude, I don't care about any of this. I'm just trying to listen to the show. And for you guys, I love you. Thanks for sticking around. It really means a lot. But make sure you subscribe over there on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. That way you never miss an episode. Plus, the more people that subscribe, the more ratings and reviews, the more that it goes up in the algorithm, the more people will find the show organically. And it would mean the world to me. All right, let's get going. Let's start with something non-political today, because this one hits a little close to home. The Michigan-Ohio State game this weekend. Obviously, one of the biggest rivalry games in America, no doubt. I'm sure some of you out there can make the argument that your rivalry games are just as big or just as good, but I would have to argue, no, nothing comes close to the Michigan-Ohio State game. And if you're from Ohio like me, you're probably still in shock today from the outcome of this game because, here you had an Ohio State team that has a $20 million roster, which I think is crazy that in college football, we're talking about how much money these schools are paying to get players, on their team. And Ohio State spent $20 million and completely failed to deliver. I mean, they were over a 21-point favorite in this game, and Michigan came in and essentially mud stomped them. I mean, Michigan. So here's the team in Michigan, right? Defending national champs, I get, but their roster was gutted after last season, completely gutted. New head coach. They announced him being the head coach late in the game. He didn't really have the time to recruit like you normally would. And he does the best he can. He has a walk-on quarterback who literally fought cancer 2 years ago and won. They have no offense, literally zero offensive production. Their DBs are probably one of the worst in the country as a group. They do have a stout defensive line and great linebackers, but the DBs are young and need a lot of work. Essentially, they had nothing that could compete with Ohio State. If you just line up those rosters and compared them head to head, Ohio State was going to run away with this thing. And it didn't happen because what Michigan brought in, I believe, is just they had the mental game on point. They were going to lay it all out there. They were going to play some of their best football, and they were going to leave it all out on the field, and they did, and they embarrassed Ohio State. And then you had the post-game embarrassment, which was worse. And I know there's been a lot of commentary. I'm going to play you guys a few episodes or a few videos here. But you had this post-game debacle with Michigan coming out and trying to plant their flag. And then Ohio State picking a fight over it. And I know there's different viewpoints of this. I know there's some people saying it was disrespectful of Michigan to plant their flag at the 50-yard line on the block O. And there's a lot of people that say, hey, if you don't want another team to plant their flag on your field, how about win? Then you don't have to worry about it. And I agree with that sentiment. In competition in sports, if you don't want another team to dominate you on your field and then plant their flag, maybe try winning, and then you don't have to worry about it. But it was complete chaos at the end of that game. And I'm going to queue up a couple of videos for you here because, I think, it made Ohio State look pathetic. Whoop. And sorry, I'm doing this completely solo today. So I've got to do all the controls and everything, which is no problem. And I'm doing it on Rumble for the first time. So it's like I may make some mistakes here. But you had this huge melee, which you guys have seen all the videos on the melee. But the one thing I want to point out that I saw on here, which let me switch over my screens here. Boop, boop, boop. There you go. We are going to go into, here you go. I'm still figuring it out, guys. There we go. Now we're cooking with grease. But so you had this melee breakout, right? And then you had, fighting. I think some players were pepper sprayed. Kind of a crazy situation and scenario. You had Ryan Day basically standing over there with his hands in his pockets, watching the whole thing happen. But then you had this scene right here, and this is what I. Oh, let me see here. All right, that's not working quite the way I wanted. Here we go. Get rid of this. Boop. All right, let's start this over. So you had this melee. And you got Ryan Day standing there with his hands in his pockets doing nothing, just letting his team do what they want. And then you got this scene right here, which is what I wanted to show you guys. Just a beautiful, beautiful scene here of players from Michigan and Ohio State praying together while the rest of their teammates are fighting at the 50-yard line. And I just thought, there is a bright side to this. And it was that you got these Ohio State players and this Michigan player praying together. And that's, I think, how we should end football games. I don't think at all what Michigan did was disrespectful in any way. I think if you don't want people planting their flag on your field, then, win. That's the easiest thing you can do. All right. So I think that's enough. I mean, what do you guys think? Was Michigan's flag planting disrespectful or did Ohio State bring it on themselves? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And I think the best response to all of this was Khalil Mullings, the running back at Michigan. I think he had the best response. Let me play this for you guys.
What's going through your head right now? Yeah, it was for such a great game. You hate to see stuff like that after the game. It's just bad for the sport, bad for college football. But at the end of the day, some people gotta learn how to lose, man. You can't be fighting this stuff just because you lost the game. All that fighting. We had 60 minutes, we had 4 quarters to do all that fighting, and now people want to talk and fight. That's wrong.
What's going through your head?
And there you go. So I agree. Sometimes some people you just got to learn how to lose, and I think this is what's going to get Ryan Day in trouble. And again, it's just my opinion. You guys may have a different opinion, but I think this is the culture that Ryan Day has created. Like, if you're going to put more effort, if you're going to give more fight and have more fight in you over a flag being planted on your field than you are during the game to win the game, then that's a problem. Like, you should have nothing left in the tank. So if you got enough left to go out there and try to start a fist fight over somebody planting their flag on your field, that's a problem. And I think that's the culture that Ryan Day has brought to Ohio State and the Ohio State players. And I think Ohio State deserves better. I really do. And I think Ryan Day is officially in danger of losing his job at Ohio State. You guys, let me know what your thoughts are on that. It's tough to be a Buckeye today, I know, but hey, sometimes you got to take the loss and move on, right? Sometimes you got to let the other team celebrate. Let's hope every team learns from this. It sounds like the Big Ten is fining both teams $100,000 apiece for the brawl, and they should. I mean, I think the fighting is the worst part. If a team wins, they have every right to celebrate that win on the field, whichever field they win on. And I think it was very classless for Ohio State and the Ohio State players and the Ohio State coaching staff to allow that to happen. But hey, it's the biggest rivalry in America for a reason. But let's get on and talk about Trump's picks here, because this is kind of big news over the Thanksgiving break. Before we do that, though, guys, if you have not went out and picked up a copy of my new book, We the Puppets, the Audience for the Best Illusion Ever Performed, here's a copy right here. Normally I have the graphic up, but again, I'm testing this out for the first time here over on Rumble. Go out and pick up a copy. It's on Amazon. You can go over to Amazon, pick it up. It's a great read. I wrote it with like the TikTok mentality in mind, right? Or the TikTok attention span, if you will. It's a quick hitting book. You can sit down and read it in one setting, and it dives into some of these things that we talk about on the show and that you guys have been seeing. It's the systems in America that have been hijacked and manipulated to benefit the few at the expense of the American people. And it's about exposing how power is manipulated in politics and the media. And you guys maybe can't put your finger on it or can't articulate it. And I tried to do so in the book so that you guys could start to question things, question everything. So if you haven't went out and picked up a copy, do so today over on Amazon.com. And it's a great stocking stuffer. It'd be great for any college kid or high school kid that you got at home and for yourself. But I think for the youth, we really need to reach them now before they, get turned in college, etc. All right, now let's get into the big political story. Obviously, is Trump's picks. He made several more picks. I said at the last episode last week he was going to make more picks. I didn't see why he would stop over the holidays, and he didn't. He did not disappoint on his picks. The left is losing their minds because the big one, the one that sent shockwaves, kind of like the Pete Hegseth and the Matt Gaetz picks, which I know Matt Gaetz is no longer being considered. But the pick that sent the shockwaves was Kash Patel for FBI director, and the left is completely losing their minds, claiming this will destroy the FBI. But let's break it down, because I think this was a great pick. I really do. Kash Patel, is somebody that has promised that he would root out any corruption at the FBI. And for those of you that have short memory spans, I mean, let's not forget where Kash Patel kind of got his notoriety in all this. And it was investigating the origins of the Russian collusion story That involved the Hillary Clinton campaign, Fusion GPS, the Steele dossier, and the FBI. And the FBI going out and getting FISA warrants to spy on the Trump campaign during the 2016 election cycle. And they used the Steele dossier to do so, which was absurd. And Kash Patel was brought in by Congress to investigate the origins of this because it is completely corrupt for the FBI to work in coordination with a political campaign, the Hillary Clinton campaign, Fusion GPS, and utilize a dossier that was not at all backed up by any evidence whatsoever. It was complete hearsay. And they use that to spy on their political opponents. And for those of you out there that are still confused as to why people who voted for Trump say they don't believe the 34 felony counts because they're flimsy at best, they're also going to get thrown out. The whole election case down there in Georgia, again, I think is going to get thrown out. And you guys wonder, because I know the talking points is, oh, you voted for a 34 count felon, convicted felon, et cetera, which is all garbage at the end of the day. And it's been proven over and over to be garbage again. And I know you guys know the talking points, but for those of you on the left that are so confused as to why so many Americans would vote for somebody, it started here. The origins of not believing anything the media says, not believing in the FBI, not believing in Congress and people like Adam Schiff in Congress, all started here with the Russia collusion thing. And Kash Patel was at the front and center of that investigation. Now, the other talking point from the left is that, you know, he's just going to be a loyalist and a yes man to Trump. And I, for the life of me, can't figure out this talking point or this argument from the left, from any side, honestly, about somebody, president-elect, picking people who will be loyal to their policies. That is the point of winning an election and being president of the United States, is you want people in your cabinet and in the executive administration that are going to be loyal to the policies you're trying to put out there. I don't understand that as a talking point. I mean, would you pick people that are going to be disloyal? I mean, I don't think any president has, you know, gone out of their way to pick people who are going to be disloyal to what their policies are. And so I think that talking point is absurd. It's intellectually lazy. It just makes no sense to me. And I don't think it makes sense to a lot of you guys out there either. And, you know, Kash Patel, his own words, his commitment is to rooting out all corruption in the FBI. And I think that's a good thing. And I think that's what the American people voted for, because we see it. We see the weaponization of the Justice Department. We've seen the weapon, and not just against Trump. I mean, the weaponization against Trump has been front and center, but we've seen it against, you know, moms at school boards, the school board meetings. We've seen it with, you know, Catholics. We've seen it during COVID. We've seen this weaponization of law enforcement in America to go against people who have certain political leanings or beliefs. And we're tired of it. And we want people to come in and root out this corruption and get things back in balance the way they were designed to be. The FBI absolutely needs reformed. And Patel, I think, is the guy that could deliver it. I want to play for you guys a few reactions today because, I mean, the left is completely melting down. Let me pull this one up here first over. This is Andrew McCabe, who was front and center in all of this. And this is his reaction. And I think he's crapping his pants because he was front and center in the Russia collusion thing. He was front and center in covering up a lot of stuff and weaponizing the FBI to go after people who thought differently politically. So let me pop this up here. First, I've got to make sure I go over and do this here. Boom. All right, let me bring this up.
For the men and women of the FBI, and also for the nation that depends on a highly functioning, professional, independent Federal Bureau of Investigation. The fact that Kash Patel is profoundly unqualified for this job is not even like a matter for debate. So I think what we should really be thinking about right now is, what does this signal in terms of Donald Trump's intent for the FBI? The installation, or the nomination, I guess we should say at this point, of Kash Patel as FBI director can only possibly be a plan to disrupt, to dismantle, to distract the FBI, and to possibly use it as a tool for the president's political agenda. And, you know, as an organization, we know what that looks like. This country has been there before, right? The pre-Watergate FBI, the J. Edgar Hoover FBI, struck fear in the hearts of Americans across the spectrum of politicians, people in entertainment, people in the civil rights community, because the director operated at the direction of presidents to collect political intelligence and to utilize the legal authorities, the investigative authorities of the FBI to terrorize and intimidate.
All right. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. I mean, and sorry, I had to go back to the headphones there for a second because I can't hear what the audio is saying. But I mean, it's just rich to me that somebody like him is saying that Kash Patel is going to go in and only serve the interest of Donald Trump and not try to root out the corruption that actually exists within the FBI. And it's also, he's completely wrong about the J. Edgar Hoover thing. Hoover did not do the bidding of presidents. The problem with Hoover was Hoover did his own bidding. Hoover went out and collected information on people that he wanted to be able to manipulate and blackmail. He didn't do it at the behest of presidents. That was the problem with Hoover. And I just find it rich that this is the talking point from somebody like Andrew McCabe, who was front and center in the weaponization and the corruption at the FBI. Let me play you this other one from, let me see here. Yeah, here is Jake Sullivan. And let me line this up for you guys. Here's Jake Sullivan being asked on ABC News what his thoughts are.
The breaking news overnight, President-elect Trump announcing he wants to nominate Kash Patel for FBI director. The FBI obviously plays a major role in counterterrorism operations. What do you make of this pick?
Look, I'm not going to speak about the president-elect's nominees. The only thing that I can point out, Kristen, is that we, the Biden administration, adhere to the longstanding norm that FBI directors serve out their full terms, because the FBI director is a unique player in the American government system. They're appointed for 10-year terms, not terms just for the duration of a given president. The current FBI director, Chris Wray, was actually appointed by Donald Trump. Joe Biden didn't fire him. He relied upon him to execute his responsibilities as the director of the FBI, and allowed him to serve out the fullness of his term over the course of the Biden administration. So that's how we approach things. And we would like to ensure that the FBI remains an independent institution, insulated from politics.
Jake, look.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. And here's the fallacy here. And I keep hearing this over and over again. I keep hearing it in left talking points as well. This fallacy of these term limits. Now, yes, the FBI director has a 10-year term that like they prefer to serve. That way they can cross over between different presidents. But you guys make no mistake about this. The Constitution is very, very clear on this. And it is that this is part of the executive branch. Executing the laws are part of the executive branch, which fall under the president of the United States. The president of the United States has the ability, has the power to remove anybody in the executive branch, regardless of term. So this whole notion that, oh, well, we would like him to serve his term limit is ridiculous. It is absurd. And the president of the United States has no obligation to allow anyone to serve 10 years. And this whole idea that these parts of the executive branch are independent of the executive branch, which is the talking points in the narrative that they're trying to get you to buy hook, line, and sinker, is absurd. There is no independent portion of the executive branch that is independent from the president of the United States or the executive branch. It's not a thing. That's not how the executive branch works. The 10-year term limit, once again, is so that you can have continuity over more than one president. However, that is only if, and you heard him say it right at the beginning. President Biden didn't fire Christopher Wray. Trump appointed him. Biden didn't fire him. But what he's not saying, I mean, you can't say that he didn't fire him without also saying that he absolutely could have fired him. Do you see the logic there, guys? Do you see what they try to do with this framing and the narratives that they try to push on you guys? Trump has no obligation to keep Christopher Wray. And yes, he did appoint Christopher Wray, but Trump appointed a lot of people in his first term that ended up being disappointments, not only to his administration, but to the American people, because they serve at the behest of the American people. We vote for our elected representatives, and our elected representatives play out the will of the people. That's how it works. We elected Donald Trump. Like I said at the beginning here of this segment, we elected Donald Trump to root out the corruption that we've seen, especially in the Department of Justice and especially in the FBI. So make no mistake about it, guys. Trump has no obligation whatsoever to keep Christopher Wray around. He nominated him. Biden kept him around because he's all for the establishment. He's all for not upsetting the status quo. Christopher Wray is an establishment bureaucrat. He's not going to upend the apple cart. He's not going to change the status quo, which is why Trump wants him gone. He's proven that. Now, and Speaker Johnson looked him in the face and said, hey, you're either going to be part of the cleanup crew or you're out. And Christopher Wray has made his decision. He wants to keep the status quo intact. He has no interest in cleaning up the FBI and the corruption that we've seen in the FBI and investigating the corruption in the FBI and allowing that information to be released to the American people so that we can see the whole picture of everything that's happened, from not only the weaponization back during the Russia collusion hoax, but what members of Congress were involved, how they were involved, all the way up to the impeachments, all the way up to Joe Biden and his son influence peddling and creating crimes against the American people to enrich themselves. All of it. Like, we want to see all of it. We've still never even gotten to the bottom of the Hillary Clinton emails, going back to the last election cycle with her and Trump, and the illegal servers that she had when she was Secretary of State, and deleted thousands and thousands of emails that she was illegally keeping. We still don't know all the information about that. We don't know the information about all the ways that the Department of Justice has been weaponized. And we need somebody in there that's going to shake it up. So I want you guys to understand, Trump has no obligation. That is not how our system of governance works, to keep anybody in the executive branch. People in the executive branch work at the pleasure of the president of the United States, the person we elect, because they are unelected bureaucrats. We elect Trump. He nominates the people he would like to serve in his cabinets and run these departments. Yes, some departments we have term limits, but these are not guaranteed term limits, guys. These are just, think of them as contracts for overflow, for overlapping president to president. That way there is continuity in these departments as we transition power. And if the incoming president thinks that individual is doing a good job, then their contract keeps going for the 10-year term limit. But they can nullify that contract, which is the term limit, immediately. Immediately. That is the prerogative of the executive branch. So don't let these people try to frame this and spin this narrative into something that it's not. Trump has no obligation to keep the current FBI director, Christopher Wray, in place whatsoever. But what do you guys think? Will Patel clean house at the FBI, or is this just more political theater? Send me your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. I mean, I think Patel has the right mindset. It's not about loyalty to Trump. And I think, he served, think of it like this. He served more time in the Obama administration, Kash Patel did, than he had in the Trump administration. Don't let them tell you otherwise. And for all those people out there saying he's inexperienced and doesn't have the experience to be FBI director, are just lying to you. He's been chief of staff of the Department of Defense. He's been a prosecutor for the Obama administration for the war on terror. I mean, he's been around for a while, guys. He's been trying to root out corruption and prosecute people who were trying to do horrible things in America for years. He's got plenty of experience to be the director of the FBI. And it's not about loyalty to Trump. It's about restoring trust in one of the most powerful agencies in our country, the FBI. And I think it's a good pick. Now, on another note, I think a bad pick potentially that Trump has made is his DEA pick, Chad Chronister, I think is how you say his name. Chronister. I can't remember. Let me look here. I think it's Chronister. You guys tell me. Am I saying that right down in the comment section, Chad Chronister? A lot of people got a little bit of heartburn over this pick because apparently Mr. Chronister was, let me switch this screen over here, was jailing people during COVID. And apparently during COVID, he threw in jail a pastor from Tampa Bay Church, Ronald Brown, a pastor at the river at Tampa Bay Church. And he threw him in jail because apparently he disregarded state and local public health orders. And the guy was like, no, my congregation is going to meet, which is a constitutional right. There's no health order, guys. And I know I'm trying not to replay the complete COVID scenario, but we have to remember these things because there is no scenario where a health order trumps our constitutional rights, like the right to assemble, the right to religion, etc. And so this guy broke this pastor's constitutional rights. And a lot of people are not having it. And a lot of people are like, hey, man, this guy can't lead the DEA. I mean, he was arresting pastors. That's not cool. And a lot of people are saying, we cannot, people who violated constitutional rights during COVID cannot fail up, at least not in this administration. That is not what we hired Trump to ensure. We don't want people who took away constitutional rights to now find themselves with a promotion in our government. And so we'll see how this one goes. It was reported that actually happened, that he did, announce that he was going to arrest that pastor back during COVID. And it sounds like he was pretty one-sided on the COVID question and how he administered the judicial system in Florida during COVID. And I think it's something to pay attention to and something to be concerned about. But you guys let me know what your thoughts are. I think this could potentially be a bad pick. We'll see. And then real quick, before we move on to this next section and wrap up for today, and I'm sure today will be slightly shorter episode again. And I know you guys are like, Justin, I don't care. And I get it, but I'm testing this out. So like part of it is I got to get through the show, and then there's a bunch of stuff I got to do on the back end. And I'm still trying to figure out how to use everything inside of Rumble Studio. So for those of you guys sticking around, it means the world to me. Thank you very much for doing so. But we need to keep our eye on Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins. Apparently, the Biden administration right now is trying to ramrod through a bunch of federal judges before Biden leaves office. They're trying to stack the federal district courts with progressive liberal judges. And in order to do that, they need to be confirmed in the Senate. And they do need some senators on the Republican side to vote in favor to get it done. And apparently Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski is the senator out of Alaska and Susan Collins is the senator out of Maine. Apparently they have voted yes for all these nominees, these judge nominees that the Biden administration has put forward. My question is going to be, how are they, if they're so willing to vote for these liberal progressive judges, federal judges, let's see how they're going to vote on the Trump nominees for Trump's cabinet. Because that will tell you everything you need to know about Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins. And I think that we need to keep an eye on these two senators. Now, the unfortunate part is that Lisa Murkowski will not be up for re-election again until 2029 and Susan Collins 2027. And I think that's why they're voting with the Democrats for these progressive judges, because their hope, this is every politician's hope, especially senators, because they get a 6-year term, is that they can go ahead and vote right now to keep the status quo and the establishment intact, because their hope is that by 2027 and 2029, you guys will have forgotten how they voted. But we're not doing that anymore. And I write about it in my book, We the Puppets, how we need to stay engaged and tuned in, even in off cycles. because these people come up for reelection, and we have to remember what they did in office. And I'm telling you right now, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins need to be paid attention to. And if you live in Alaska, if you live in Maine, and these are your senators, you need to be blowing their phones up every day when they vote like this. And if they don't get in line with the mandate that the American people, because the only reason they made it back to Washington, because I believe Murkowski was up for reelection in this last cycle and got reelected, probably because people were down balloting Republicans only, not because there's this extreme loyalty to the Republican Party, because I don't believe that exists anymore, but only because they wanted to ensure that if they voted for Trump, that Trump would have the help that he needed in the House and Senate. That's the only reason Republicans got control of the Senate and got control of the House. It wasn't because there's this big push to the Republican Party or that people are jumping party lines. No. The people voted for Trump and wanted to make sure Trump's agenda would get pushed through. That's why you saw a lot of down ballot voting. And I know the Republican Party is thinking otherwise, and I think that is a grave mistake to make. And I think they're going to be sadly disappointed if they don't get in line. And this is the part that scares me, that if these Republicans in Congress do not get in line, the midterms election in 2026 is going to be horrible, because people are going to be pissed that they didn't get done what they wanted done, and they're going to vote the other way. They're going to jump and go over to the Democrat Party, which I think is the absolute worst thing we can do. And we can talk about that on future episodes, because the Democrat Party is the Socialist Party. I mean, they are the Marxist Party. They're leaving no doubts about that. And we just repudiated them. I mean, we just rebuked the entire Democrat Party. But that's typically what will happen. And I think people are serious right now. So we've got to pay attention. We got to pay attention to what these people are doing in office. And I think if these Republicans in Congress don't get in line, you Lisa Murkowski's and you Susan Collins of the world do not get in line, it's going to be a problem in 2026. And you will absolutely be primaried in 2027, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski in 2029. This will be your last term as senators. So I'm just telling you now, this will be your last term as senators if you don't push the mandate the American people gave when they voted in Donald Trump. Guys, keep your eyes on these people. Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you're from Alaska and Maine, you need to be having their numbers on speed dial. It should be saved in your phone, and you should be calling these guys every week that they don't vote the way you want them to vote. Now, let's talk about something. I'm going to wrap the show with this. Again, it's going to be a slightly quicker show today. Moving forward, the show will stay somewhere between 45 minutes and to an hour until we get a little bit more coverage and more people tuning in. Because I still run my company, my real estate investment company. I still do that every single day. So I come do this show in the morning because I just love doing it. Like, I love talking about it. I love giving the perspective of somebody that kind of sits in the middle of the country, does not subscribe to partisan politics. I don't subscribe to either political party. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent. I think the two-party system is part of what's killed America. And I write about it in my book, We the Puppets. And I love bringing that perspective to you guys, because I want you guys to know you're not alone. Like, you're not alone in this thought of, man, I don't believe everything the Republicans believe. And I don't believe everything the Democrats believe. And I'm tired of being divided by the two-party system. You know, I'm tired of one side saying they don't want to come to Thanksgiving because, we voted differently than they did. I think that's absurd. And all that is created out of this two-party narrative. And I think a lot of us are just done with it. And you see that in the numbers, because more and more of us are going to unaffiliated or independent voter status in most states. So I just want to bring that perspective. And if that's you, this is the show for you. I'm going to tell you the way I think, because I'm not a fan of the Republican Party. I'm not a fan of the Democrat Party. But I am a fan of America. I am a fan of our Constitution. I am a fan of having common sense initiatives and policies in our government and allowing the people to live out their natural rights that are guaranteed to us through the Constitution of the United States. And, totally rebuking this division in America down party lines, race lines, all of that. We've got to rebuke it. We got to have a full repudiation of this. It's the only way we take our country back. So I love doing the show. I will add more time as we get visitors, but if that's you, then this is the show for you. And if you're already here, share it with people that you know that feel the same way we do. That way we can band together and really make a change here in America. And I will do this every day. One, because I love it. And two, I am deathly serious about making significant changes in America and getting back to a constitutional republic as it was designed, and trying to bring you guys the truth every single day. Not trying to bring you the truth, but as we see it, right? Like, I'm not, that's the other thing I should bring. I'm not news. This is not a news show. If you want breaking news or hard news, you need to find another show. This is my commentary on the news and on what's happening. So it's opinion. It's my opinion. It's the opinion of somebody that's middle of America. Okay, I think I explained that enough. Let's talk about something that's been bothering me for a while here. And that is, what does it really mean to be a liberal? And spoiler alert, most people who call themselves liberals simply are not liberals in America anymore. I want to give you the definition, Webster's definition. I got my handy dandy old school dictionary here, and I want to tell you what the definition is. A liberal is one who is open-minded or not strict in the observance of orthodox, traditional or established forms or ways. A member supporter of a liberal political party. And then the last is an advocate or an individual or an advocate for or in individual rights. So somebody who advocates for individual rights, which in America is our natural rights, right? The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, what the first several amendments of the Constitution afforded to us and guaranteed for us. That is what a liberal is. Somebody who is open-minded and does not adhere to strict observance of orthodox. And I think what we're seeing in liberals in America today is anybody that's calling them a liberal and telling people to not visit their family on Thanksgiving, you're not a liberal. You're not a traditional liberal. You're a progressive. Modern liberals are actually progressives. That's what they're leaning towards. And progressives and progressiveness, because I know this can be confusing for folks, so I just want to clear it up. Progressive, anybody calling themselves a progressive, when you hear the word progressive from here on out, you just need to think Marxist, socialist, communist person. They believe in socialist, communist principles. They are, for all intents and purposes, a Marxist. Let's just call it a spade a spade. It is what it is. We don't need to mince words. We don't need to pretend anymore. Anyone calling themselves a progressive is a Marxist. So when you hear progressive or progressive values, think Marxist values, because that is what they are. But you're not liberal. And I'm tired, and I'm tired because I knew liberals growing up, traditional liberals who were open-minded and believed in individual rights, advocated for individual rights. They didn't subscribe to an orthodoxy, right? They weren't what you see on the left today. And I hate that the word or term liberal has been hijacked by the progressive left, which some people call the radical left. Because, there are good liberals still out there, good classical liberals still out there that are open-minded. They don't subscribe to a certain orthodoxy, but they do believe in protecting individual rights, the right to do what you want to do. That's why liberals were so instrumental in gay rights. They were so instrumental, especially in the military, to allow gay members of our military to serve openly as they should. Liberals, fought for equality on so many levels, but it was because they believed in individual rights, not progressive Marxist values, but individual rights. And they didn't get pigeonholed into certain orthodoxy, like political party narratives. Now, a lot of liberals eventually ended up voting on the Democrat side because at the time and throughout the last probably 40, 50 years, it seemed, and trust me, it was a facade, and you're all starting to understand that and figure it out by now, but it seemed like the Democrats were more liberal. The Democrats were just more interested in controlling liberals, classical liberals. So they gave the appearance that they were more liberal, but they're not. The Democrat Party is a party of progressivisms and Marxism. It's just that simple. But I'm tired of the liberal ideology being hijacked by the progressive and radical left, because there's still good classical liberals out there. And they're like, man, I'm a liberal, but I don't think like these guys think. I'm a liberal, but I voted for Trump because I don't think what the Democrat Party thinks. The progressives of the Democrat Party think. I'm not with them because it seems radical and crazy to me. They're trying to violate human rights or individual rights, natural rights. And I'm not with that. You know, if somebody doesn't want a certain shot, they shouldn't get it. So I only bring that up because it's been bothering me, because, and I've kind of beat up on, and I've used the term liberal, and it's bothered me that I'll come back, I'll listen to one of my shows, and I'm like, man, like, you're beating up on liberals. Like, they're not liberal. And I think we also, so there isn't this mass confusion and the ability to manipulate and fool people. We have to remember and understand what words mean. Words matter, not in the sense of like, oh, you know, sticks and stones, but words matter. What the definitions of words matter. It all matters. And we've gotten so past the ability to remember what things mean or care what they mean or how it should be applied, that we're able to be deceived by the establishment. And that's got to stop. And words matter. So and I know this is kind of like, you know, going down a rabbit hole a little bit, getting off track maybe a little bit from what's going on in the news. But I think this is important, and it's been bothering me for a long time, enough that I need to bring it up. But words matter, and we got to start using the words the way they're defined and were intended to be used, and stop changing the definition of words, because it matters. Because when you can change the definitions of words, you can deceive people. And that is what we've been seeing over the last 20, 30, 40 years and longer, honestly. So it matters to me. I want to make sure we're very clear that liberals are not bad people. Classical liberalism is not necessarily a bad thing. Progressive ideologies, Marxist ideologies, are a bad thing. And that is predominantly what you're seeing from the left in the Democrat Party, is progressivism and Marxism, which are the same thing. If you hear somebody saying I'm a progressive, your brain is saying they're Marxist, because those are the principles that they believe in. And I'll probably do a segment on a future show, maybe even tomorrow, on Marxist principles. But I don't want to get down in I just want to save the word liberal, because there are a lot of good classic liberals out there that voted for Trump. And they're like, I wish people would stop using the word liberal to describe their political ideologies, because these people, the radical progressive left, are not liberals. And they're not. They're not. So progressive is a more accurate way for many leftists today to be identified, and that's fine. But they're not liberals. Do you guys think the term liberal has been hijacked? Let me know down in the comments. Are progressives giving rural liberals a bad name? I think so. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that progressives are giving real liberals a bad name? I think they are. You guys let me know what you think down in the comments below. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap for today. I really appreciate you guys being here. Again, words matter, and so do definitions. But today we covered everything from the football, from the Ohio State game, to the FBI reform, redefining liberalism, or not redefining it, but getting it back to its original definition. Keep an eye on Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, guys. You should be blowing them up. I think they are rhinos. I think they are going to vote with the Democrats most of the time, unfortunately. And I'm thinking we should probably make this their last term as senators. Unfortunately, they got a little bit of road left to go. All right, guys. Well, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like and subscribe it and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Also, give me your feedback, because I'm testing this out just to see how it goes. I don't know if it's gone well. I don't know if it's gone poorly. I have no idea. So you guys let me know. Is the audio quality good? And I'm serious about this. Give me your thoughts and feedback. I'm doing everything I can to make this show good for you guys. And so that we can get this message out far and wide. And I don't want to do the show if I'm not going to continuously try to make it one of the best shows out there that you can spend your time watching. So give me your feedback. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And please share it with someone who needs to hear it. if you're like, yeah, man, like we need to get this nonpartisan, middle of the road, patriotic talking points out to America, then share the show. It would mean the world to me. But thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you next time. I will be back tomorrow. Hopefully a little bit less hiccupy tomorrow. But until then, guys, as always, stay strong, stay informed. But as always, stay in the fight. Okay, guys, till next time.